Hi, I'm Nat.
And I'm Guy, and the stories of the day. Sydney Sweeney and the jeans controversy, US-EU trade deal, the UK digital censorship, UK vigilante justice, and the final segment, it's too hot for YouTube, so we'll be going over to RUMBLE, the Green Monster.
Yes.
You want to get right into the first story, or you want to talk about your weekend here?
Well, we are coming on a little bit earlier today because we have changed the time of the lives. So whatever time this is for you, this is now the new time for our English lives.
For us, it's 6 p.m. Mexico City time.
Yes.
And then right after this, she actually does her Spanish segment on Nat and the Guy in Espanol. So if you are a Spanish speaker, feel free to follow her over there.
Yes, at 8 p.m. Mexico City time.
Yeah. Okay, let's get into Sydney Sweeney. And I actually didn't understand the story until you just explained it to me before we went on the air.
What did you think the story was?
I thought because she was hot, that the woke people were revolting against her, saying it was racist that she was wearing jeans and looking good, which didn't make sense to me.
Basically, that is kind of, the easiest way to understand it. But, so this is from...
Before you read it, explain it how you explained it to me about the jeans.
So what happened was American Eagle has this new campaign for jeans, blue jeans that they're selling. And they have Sydney Sweeney as a spokeswoman, I guess. And also proceeds from this jean sale go to victims of abuse or something like that. But in the ad, which we will show in a second, you can see her looking very good, very, And the voiceover, part of it says that she has good genes, meaning she has good blue genes, like making a play on words between genes, genetics, and genes, the genes. Because, as we know, Sydney Sweeney is pretty well endowed, and she is universally seen as having a good body, which is fine. We should be able to acknowledge that women look good.
I didn't put together genes as being genetics and genes being the genes that you wear, and protesters are saying that this is a racist ad because of that.
Yes, that it has racial undertones.
I don't think it had anything to do with that, because I didn't connect it to like a week later now.
No, it meant like good genes as in like genes well endowed, good body.
I understand.
Her genetics worked. But I think a lot of people might have also been confused. But Calvin Klein and a few other brands in the 90s and the early 2000s did ads that also did the same play on words. It's not new. So I don't understand why people are now going up in arms, but now everything has to do with race.
Okay, let's get into this.
So from Salon, and obviously this is the biased version of the story, which I wanted to bring first.
So take it with a grain of salt.
Yes, so according to Salon, Sydney Sweeney's new campaign draws fire for racial undertones. American Eagle's new ad campaign faces backlash over slogans some say reflects, and I can't even say this word, but EUGENICST.
And this is
ideas of beauty.
And this is kind of a reach. That being said, Sydney Sweeney is making really good career choices, not just with her movies, but the way she's advertising herself. What would you say? Advertising herself as a...
as a...
Celebrity.
Celebrity and the hot girl.
Okay.
And that's fine to be.
But nobody's been doing that for quite a long time. It's been woke agenda 101 lately.
She is slightly reminiscent of a cross between, I would say, Scarlett Johansson back in the day because of the endowments, and I don't know who else. Who was like girl next door but very hot?
I would say Megan Fox.
Yeah, kind of. But
okay,
like a different flavor of
Megan
Fox.
Let's get into this because we got quite a few stories today.
American Eagle's new fall campaign starring Sydney Sweeney is under hot fire, not for the jeans, but for the tagline, Sydney Sweeney has great genes. The phrase used in bold on billboards in Times Square in Las Vegas was designed as a denim pun. But online, many saw something else. Great genes, a phrase historically used to celebrate whiteness, thinness, and attractiveness.
What? How is it used to celebrate whiteness?
Because when you want to see everything through the lens of race and anti-racism.
But a lot of people say black people have good genes because they're better at athletics than everybody else.
Yeah.
So, it's not a racial thing, I don't think, but okay. Let's just keep going here.
But it's also been said, you have good genes, someone sometimes says, and when they make an allusion to, was your mom hot, kind of thing. This makes this campaign seem to be a tone-deaf marketing move, and it's not like they were being subtle about it. One campaign advertisement literally has Sweeney painting over the words great genes to become great jeans with a J. Maybe I'm too woke, one viral post read, but getting a blue-eyed blonde white woman and focusing your campaign around her having perfect genetics seems weird. Others described the slogan as too close to master, I can't even say the word, propaganda, and said it echoed eugenics era language used to validate and promote the superiority of white beauty.
I thought this was a great ad campaign, and it's been all over the internet, so it's obviously working. If they had to pay for every time this ad went up, it would be unsuccessful because it would cost more than it probably brought in. But because so many media outlets have really picked this up, and we're in a anti-woke or moving away from progressiveness, this is going to really work well. And they got a lot of free advertising out of this campaign.
Yes, I wanted to see if this one was a little bit less, biased. But Sydney Sweeney has come under fire for her appearance in controversial new ad campaign with denim brand American Eagle. The Euphoria star fronts the label's fall denim collection, blah, blah, blah. Features Sweeney. And this is like...
And did we have the ad or no?
We have one of them or two of them, and then someone's reaction to it as well. And now they're having to reach the American Eagle press office for a comment. And they're just saying that the campaign's pun isn't just tone deaf, it's historically loaded. But it wasn't historically loaded when they did it in the 90s and the early 2000s. It's just this new era where everything has to be seen through a racial lens.
American Eagle knew what they were doing, and they knew the woke progressive papers and media outlets would cover this, and it would be free advertising. Yes, they're going to spin it as it's bad, but it's free advertising, and not everybody's going to see this as bad.
And here from Xavier Durozo, as a proud black man, I see nothing wrong with Sydney Sweeney and American Eagle parading her good genes. Celebrating blue eyes and blonde hair isn't white betterment, but those conventionally attractive, good genes, that doesn't mean they're only good genes. And this is kind of one of the...
Genes are passed down from parents to offspring,
often
often determining traits like hair color, personality, and even eye color. My genes are blue.
Sydney Sweeney has very genes.
And that's it.
Great ad.
And if you want to see...
But I honestly didn't know, because I had seen ads without them talking before, so I didn't understand the word on play with genes.
Yeah.
Now that I actually seen that ad, it made a lot more sense. I could see how some people would be outraged, but I think this was a sly marketing campaign by American Eagle.
Yeah, I mean, right now in the tipping point of the culture war going one way and moving away from another, of course you can get a lot of free publicity. But from Jeffrey Mead, an American Eagle ad says Sydney Sweeney has great genes, a pun on denim and genetics. She happens to be blonde with blue eyes. And now these people are crying fascist propaganda. These people are so addicted to outrage. They see men with a mustache in a pair of jeans. It's not that deep. It's not racist. It's a fashion ad. Go touch some grass. And these are the kind of people that, help within the manufactured
If it was the
outrage.
exact same ad, but a black person in it, a Hispanic person in it, or even an LGBTQ person in it talking about, I have the LGBTQ gene, they would have not said a word about this. They would have probably been triumphant as a victory.
And funnily enough, I mean, I don't know what this woman is going to say, woman in quotes, but a lot of American Eagle's ads in the past, for the past 10-something years, have been all about diversity and, body positivity, giant woman on, billboards that don't fit in the billboard, etc. And also, all races, colors, etc., diversity. So the fact that they're now going after them for doing this just highlights the hypocrisy of it all. Let's see what the woman says and then what Jeffrey Mead says, if we have time.
Should we be surprised that a company whose name is literally American Eagle is making fascist propaganda like this? Probably not, but it's still really shocking. A blonde-haired, blue-eyed white woman is talking about her good genes. That is Nazi propaganda.
These people are insufferable. Everything is Nazi propaganda, fascism, blah, blah. Be quiet. Be quiet. It's a double entendre. It's a funny play on words. American Eagle sells jeans, and they're marketing their jeans. And you could say it's a double entendre because many people find this woman attractive. So there's an argument to be made that she has good genes. There's nothing about these ads that are pushing white supremacy or fascism. It's just a clever double entendre, and you guys have to find something to be offended about. You gotta have something to cry about racism and fascism and blah, blah.
He said enough words that I think YouTube doesn't like, but I mean, he's making the great point where if you want to find, flaws in everything, and if you want to find what's the phrase? If you want to find a fly in everything, you'll find them. I don't know. But since you're looking at the world through this lens and you've been trained to do so for the past 10 years, everything will seem. But for the longest time, I did not buy stuff from American Eagle because they were woke. And it annoyed me how they were pushing the other side's propaganda. So in this case, I think they're just moving towards the middle again.
Well, I don't think they're necessarily moving towards the middle. They just follow the trends in their advertising campaigns to make money, which a lot of companies do. So American Eagle is only the first of a lot of companies that are going to switch. The woke progressive left would have had you believe these were actually true beliefs of these companies, but it wasn't. These companies were afraid to get canceled. They didn't even necessarily think they were going to make money off of these woke campaigns. They were just trying to avoid cancellation. So it's good to see things going back to normal now. Okay, let's go into another.
Also, I just hope they don't capitulate because, I mean, next week we'll see the exact same ad with a woman of color that's plus size, probably. That's kind of the ping pong we got to deal with at the moment.
Okay, let's get
speaking of
to the
annoying woman, yes.
And this is kind of I guess it would kind of go along with it because it's kind of modern feminism, I would say.
Yes, modern feminism, double standards, hypocrisy, it has it all. So from the AP, the T-app was intended to help women date safely, then it got hacked. Because they're dumb.
Okay, I didn't know what the T-app was. I do now, and you told me last week because I specifically asked about this article, and then you kind of told me about it. Now I understand, but why don't you explain to the people what it is?
So the T-app, as once was the Facebook app, and it's like when it started and what drew a lot of controversy as well. On the T-app, apparently women could log in, create a profile, and list the names of the guys, and I think include photos as well, that they had dated in the past, and then from there they could rate them and say like, oh, this one ghosted me, this one stopped talking to me, this one's an abuser. Like they could invent whatever they wanted about these men, and it became like a rap sheet for each man. And you could search the name. I think I've never gone into it. I don't need to. Happily married, but desperate women would go on there and try to find like, oh, this guy I'm dating, what has he done to other women? And just like a giant gossip site, track.
Or if it was a bad
if
it was a bad breakup, it was easy to make up things about men.
It was to grade men, essentially, like meat. Like cattle.
Okay, let's go into the article here.
So T, a provocative dating app designed to let women anonymously ask or warn each other about men they'd encountered, rocketed to the top spot on the US Apple App Store this week. On Friday, the company behind the app confirmed it had been hacked. Thousands of images, including selfies, were leaked online of these same women that were rating the men. So the women's profiles got hacked.
Which is good to hear. This is what you want to hear, because when I first heard about this, I didn't know they got hacked, so I was completely against this app, and I was really glad they got a taste of their own medicine.
We have engaged third-party cybersecurity experts and are working around the clock to secure our systems, they said. 404 Media, which earlier reported the breach, said it was 4chan users who discovered an exposed database that allowed anyone to access the material from T. The app and the breach highlight the fraught nature of seeking romance in the age of social media. Just go outside, go to a church, go meet people in real life. T founder Sean Cook, and I do want to talk about him in a second.
Well, and one more thing. We actually live in Mexico City, and it's much, much more common for people to meet people at church or at a bar or out and about and not online. It's actually safer to meet somebody.
Sadly, mostly now it's at work, though.
Yeah.
Which I don't love.
But it is what it is.
But
I think it's better than
live.
the internet. Yeah.
You get to see the person, smell them, know what they are, interact like with the world. But from EV Magazine, if you don't subscribe to EV Magazine, they're great sometimes, not always. Sometimes they try to be like a normal women's magazine, but just put if you're married.
Well, what is EV Magazine?
EV Magazine is a conservative women's magazine that was started because the founders weren't finding, information that they wanted or stories that they cared about from a conservative perspective. And they started it, then they do a lot of the same, like, 15 tricks to do in bed, but then they just add for your husband. So then it's okay, then it's conservative, which I don't love, but still. They say T, the app that lets women rate men like used cars. What could possibly go wrong? In the big 2025, who doesn't love a good witch hunt? A little libel, slander, defamation, character assassination. Oh, I can't say that word, sorry. Character Batting by Jamie Marshall. Ever wished we lived in China or an episode of Black Mirror where social credit scores determine whether you can participate in society or get yeeted into social Siberia? You're in luck. T, a new dating service app for women, gives you the whole package for free. Used to give you. Well, let's be real, it's capitalism. But an interesting fact about this is that the founder and CEO of T is a homosexual who created the app because his mom was DMing criminals on dating apps. And that was his whole, way of, an idea of creating it. So even then, even now, a lot of the feminism that we see and a lot of the female trends that we see are initiated by gay men, funnily enough. But yes, so the app's ludicrous premise and potential for abuse is outdone only by its even more ridiculous origin story, which is a deeply personal mission by founder Sean Cook. And it skyrocketed to the top of the apps and then quickly got taken down because they got hacked. And I don't want to be that person really, but if you want to see the kind of women that were on the T app and whose information has been leaked online, but I don't want to participate in it, you can go on X and just search T app users and you'll see the kind of women that were, berating men and not even looking in the mirror.
They painted a huge target on themselves, especially in today's political climate. This was extremely anti-men, extremely feminist, it had everything to do with the messaging.
Well, not only, if men did that, they would get excoriated, and I mean, their addresses would also probably be online.
Then you need to ask yourself, who are hackers in general? It's going to be young men. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, you could have easily put two and two together to expect something like this to happen. I'm glad it happened personally, but okay, that's the first story. Why don't we go into the... I
have a broader point about this, but before, when dating used to be more common amongst people you knew or in your vicinity, knowing about other people and how they behaved and interacted with others was easier because most people knew them. But now that everything is online and apparently people have become too scared to even step out of their doors or strike up a conversation with anybody on the street. I mean, Gen Zs can't even pick up the phone properly. They don't even know how to say hello on the phone. Well, of course, it's going to be outsourced to the internet, but the internet, number one, never forgets, but number two, is not a good way of communicating about positives or negatives, especially when you're trying to date or find love.
Okay,
stop tapping.
Let's go into the next story, and that's going to be the EU-US trade deal. We're actually going to go into all of these tariff deals, but this EU... Yeah, that was the right camera. The EU tariff deal is by far the most important because the mainstream media is trying to frame this as, Trump's got 6 tariff deals now. But the truth is the EU tariff deal alone included 27 countries. Okay, let's go into the article here.
U.S. and EU avert trade war with 15% tariff deal from Reuters. Hold on. Deal includes 600 billion EU investments in U.S., more energy, defense purchases, 15% tariff better than threatened 30% in deal mirroring Japan's. EU says rate extends to cars, pharmaceuticals, and semiconductors. U.S. steel and aluminum tariffs stay at 50% but could fall later. The U.S. struck a framework trade agreement with the European Union on Sunday, imposing a 50% tariff on most EU goods, half the threatened rate, and averting a bigger trade war between two allies that account for almost a third of global trade.
Okay, and the EU is known as the walled garden. They're known as that because they were able to get cheap energy from Russia for all of these years to build up this powerhouse economy, which is now crumbling. This was an absolute capitulation from the EU. Let's just talk a minute about the $600 billion investment and the $750 billion investment in military weapons and American energy. They don't even have the facilities nor the ships to transport that much energy over to the EU. What do I mean? LNG tankers are specialty tankers. They're all built in China. So unless they want to help out China and order a bunch of these tankers, I don't know how they're going to ship the LNG over there. Number one, I know Canada's talking about potentially building a facility, but they don't yet have a trade deal with the U.S. That's number one. But number two, the EU doesn't have the proper facilities to even welcome these ships or offload the energy from these ships in storage containers or storage vessels once it gets over there. So it's going to be very interesting. They're going to have to build massive amounts of infrastructure. This is going to really light a fire under their American energy sector. They're going to be exploiting natural gas and oil because they have the buyers lined up. They just need to invest more in the infrastructure, such as the ships, the ports, and the drilling. So drill, baby, drill. I guess it's here. This is bad news for Canada, if anything.
And also, in a lot of the reporting about the tariff deal that they struck, a lot of news outlets, also from America, are just focusing on, oh, how is this going to affect Europe? This is so bad for Europe. Europe, at least averted the tariff war, the trade war, but they're not getting off like as good as they could. But at the same time, nobody wants to mention that this is yet another, feather in Trump's cap to say he's actually doing.
This is not just
good.
a feather in Trump's cap. You got to realize this is 27 countries in one deal. He has massive leverage because a lot of the deals that he's talked about and they got the framework for, such as Japan and China, there's a few sticking points. Now he can go in there and say, you're going to do what we say because in every trade negotiation, Trump has the leverage now that he has this EU deal pretty much outlined. Canada is beginning to get trapped in a corner. They wanted to play games. They wanted to F around. They're about to find out. Mexico, on the other hand, it's rumored that the deal is supposed to emerge next week. So I really do hope that's the case. Mexico hasn't really been effing around. They've been working hand in hand with the U.S. Publicly, they've been talking a little tough, but behind the scenes, the Trump administration has been really impressed with Mexico. Trump has always favored Mexico as an emerging economy and as a neighbor and has always gave them pretty good trade deals. So I know in the last trade deal, he specifically wanted to make it between the U.S. and Mexico. Mexico is the one that demanded Canada be in that trade deal. So I think Trump potentially gives Mexico the better deal between Mexico and Canada. 10% is the best rate you're going to get, and that's what the UK got. Mm-hmm. But let's go through each trade deal just extremely quickly here, just to talk about the what's good, what's bad, and what's ugly when it comes to these tariff deals. Okay, the first one would be the United Kingdom. A trade deal was signed maintaining a 10% tariff. This is a great deal. Mexico and Canada could hope to get a similar deal if they get a good deal. If they have good negotiators and they don't play games, they might be able to get 10 to 15%. I hope 10% for Mexico because that would mean the world for the country. Canada has been really messing around. I'm expecting 20, 30%, or maybe just a flat tariff. They're not even going to negotiate. Canada's entire economy has been kind of centered on the fact that they've tariffed the United States for decades upon decades, and the United States didn't tariff them back. So they're about to get a taste of their own medicine. It's going to be very interesting what happens there. The next trade deal was Vietnam. Vietnam basically set a 20% baseline tariff on Vietnamese imports. Asian countries are generally going to get higher tariffs. And you say, why are these Asian countries going to get higher tariffs? Because they can't be trusted. Why can't Asian countries be trusted? Because China has been manufacturing in Vietnam or shipping their goods through Vietnam, putting made in Vietnam labels on it in order to avoid previous tariffs that the United States was putting on China. So all these Asian countries are going to get 15 at best, most likely a 20% tariff and up until they show they're not cooperating with China by slapping labels that it's made in another country when it's actually made in China. Next is Indonesia. Indonesia is going to pay a 19% tariff with a $4.5 billion in agricultural investment. A lot of these tariff deals are going along with multi-billion-dollar investments in U.S. manufacturing, U.S. agriculture, U.S. plane manufacturing, such as Boeing, the steel industry, and other manufacturing industries. So these aren't just tariffs. But again, Indonesia's at 19%, so 19, 20, all the way up to 30% for most Asian countries, except for two. And that's going to be Japan and the Philippines. The Japan and the Philippines have really centered themselves as forward operating bases for the U.S., have bought a ton of military equipment, kind of changed their laws to let the U.S. military in there. They're going to be the first line of defense against China if there is a war with Taiwan. And I think they're going to get favorable deals. Let's go into Japan's tariff deal, and it's 15%, which is the lowest for any Asian country. But they had a carve out on a lot of their manufacturing. One of those manufacturing sectors being the car manufacturing sector. So he did give special carve outs for Japan because Japan has been such a close ally to the U.S., and he did give special carve outs. The Philippines is currently working out a deal, but I expect the Philippines to probably get the best deal in Asia because they have been the most cooperative with the U.S. military. The final deal was the EU deal. We'll go back into that just for a moment, and it's a 15% baseline with $750 billion investment in energy and a $600 billion investment in U.S. manufacturing. Basically, trillions of dollars are coming into the U.S. to make these manufacturing facilities in all these different industries. After this EU deal, this was kind of the piece he needed to kind of solidify to the world economy is being recentered, and it's being recentered around the United States. It's going to take a little while to build these manufacturing facilities, but the money's there. The U.S. energy sector is booming. They're going to start drilling. They're going to open up Alaska. They're going to start making refining and manufacturing ports within the U.S. and other countries in order to receive the U.S. LNG. Okay, that's the countries. I know a lot more about that. That's why I kind of took over the segment. But what do you have to say about it?
Well, a lot of people are also, again, not crediting or acknowledging that this might actually work better than a lot of the prognostics that economists and fearmongers were giving out about, oh, there's going to be complete collapse of the economy by July 4th, and everything's going to go horribly wrong and nothing's going to work and we're going to get no, money back as the United States. Again, we're in Mexico, but that's what they were saying over there, all the naysayers. But at the same time, I believe June was one of the first months in a very long time when the U.S. was actually in the black instead of being in the red. And Trump is even now talking about giving rebates, which should be used to go towards the U.S. debt, which is gigantic. But at least, there's provable, credible evidence that it might work.
It's not going to just might work. It is working, and you're completely right when you're saying costs aren't going up for the most part. Amazon's reporting very little price increases. Most general products have no price increase, and this is because there was such a margin of profit on Chinese products coming into the U.S. The manufacturers are now eating the costs, meaning they'll take a 20% loss on their product because they're still going to make 10%. But they were making 30, 40, and even 50% on a lot of these products. That's what Trump and the MAGA economists said would happen, and that's actually what's happening. There's a few products that have very small margins. Yeah, those prices are going up, but the majority of day-to-day products are not. And MAGA economics is in full swing. I wouldn't even say it's in full swing now. It's just starting out and it's having massive success. The next thing that's going to come in is a private digital currency, not a CBDC run by the bank. But once they get that private digital currency in, I think it's going to undermine the EU's digital currency they're trying to bring in, and it's going to solidify the U.S. as the major dominant power in the world again. I'm surprised to be saying this at this point, but it really looked like China was going to take over. Trump is taking on not only China, but the entire BRICS head on. That would be Russia, Iran, and China, economically and otherwise. I'm completely against a war with China, but an economic war, I think Trump is handling masterfully right now.
One of the things he is handling masterfully. So yes, that was the trades. Was that it?
Yeah, that's it for that story. We can go into censorship. This kind of goes along with the tariff stories I was just talking about, because after Trump outlined the EU tariff deal, he went over to the UK to help that tariff deal along and kind of finalize that structure. He has a lot more leverage over the UK now. That being said, Censorship was constantly brought up when Trump and Starmer were at multiple press conferences together. It's a concerning thing with digital ID, digital online identification laws coming in the EU. So we got quite a few stories. We're going to outline what's kind of going on in the EU right now.
And after we're done with this show and my Spanish show, I do have a story coming up as a video on this channel about censorship also in Mexico and how legal avenues and policies that were geared towards, safety towards women, in this case it's towards children, have actually created a massive censorship machine. So we're seeing it everywhere, not just the US, Canada, and the UK, which is what we usually talk about.
It's very prevalent in the UK right now. Other countries, it's prevalent as well, but they're really codifying all these laws or enacting all these laws now. Let's go into the first article.
So from Normal Island News, UK government celebrates ruining entire internet for whole world to save 0 children from harm.
And this is a bit of a biased article, but this is my view. Usually I show articles with the opposite opinion of me and say take it with a grain of salt. I rather agree with this article. In this case, I decided to show my opinion through an article I agree with.
The Online Safety Act came into effect 2 days ago, and it has been a roaring success, ruining the entire internet for everyone to save 0 children from harm. Western bureaucrats have hailed it as the most important step towards authoritarianism since the US agreed to ban TikTok for Israel. Excitingly, you can no longer decide what to see on the internet to protect a handful of kids whose parents did not bother with parental controls. Those kids are now safe, so safe that they can access all the bad things by visiting sites that are too small to be affected by the rules.
Okay, and that's a good point. I think that parents need to have more role in monitoring what their kids are either doing online or even giving them phones or access to this. I don't want to see the government strip people of their freedoms in the name of children's safety, because once they enact that, they're going to use public safety as a cudgel to strip freedoms from the people.
And also continuing to use the government as this parental role in your child's life. You should be the one that has the parental rights to, decide what your kid does and doesn't see. What matters is you can't access your preferred social content without permission from an artificial intelligence. Social media companies are even hiding your own posts from you until they can verify it's safe for you to see them. We can't be too careful, can we? The launch of the Online Safety Act has
this was just launched very recently, like last week. We talked about it the day it did launch. So the fact that Trump was over there this weekend, and we're going to show you some of the clips of when the journalists were asking him, between Trump and J.D. Vance, they've been bringing this issue up amongst the EU and their UK allies. And why are they enacting laws like this? Trump kind of brushed it off right now because he's trying to finalize these tariff deals, but this will become an issue in the future once these tariff deals are finally inked.
The launch of the Online Safety Act, and of course this article is very tongue-in-cheek, so yeah, it's being a little sarcastic. The launch of the Online Safety Act has been so successful that it has impacted people who are not even British and don't live in the UK. One German photographer was blocked from seeing their own photographs to protect children from seeing landscapes. Personally, I think it's brilliant the UK government introduced a policy their own voters don't want and that has impacted people way beyond their jurisdiction.
And one thing I didn't realize when I seen all this Online Safety Act is like, man, these UK people are really in trouble. What are they going to do? There's certain regions in the world I follow quite a bit. The UK, Ireland being one of them, Canada, Mexico, South Africa, and the EU, as well as Russia and China. But specifically, I follow a lot of people on X from the UK. And they highlight a lot of articles. When I'm going to look for these articles now, because I'm not in that region, it's very hard for me to get behind this censorship wall. So it's not just preventing people within the UK finding articles, it's preventing people from outside the UK figuring out what's going on in the UK. A lot of people like me and other independent creators were highlighting mainstream articles from the BBC and places like this and kind of making fun of them or mocking them for their the direction the country's going.
Bias. Remember a few years ago when the GDPR was introduced and everyone agreed you should not give your more personal information to websites than is absolutely necessary? Well, now we've decided the opposite. Websites are demanding a copy of your ID to access to your email address book, which enables the government to obtain your entire digital footprint, including all the websites you've signed up for, all the companies you've done business with, all the people you've interacted with, and all the flans-only girls you've subscribed to. Perhaps the best part of the act is the facial scans, which are conducted by AI to guess your age. I guess I would turn out way younger than I actually am.
Yeah, and this is very important because this Digital ID Act is going to be linked to the digital currencies. I was looking today into the structure the U.S. government is kindly trying to bring in for their stable coin and how it works between the banks, the regulators, and the customers and businesses involved. And it all goes into a standard ledger. I believe that standard ledger is going to be linked with your digital ID ledger, so your online and your monetary transactions are going to be completely followed.
And just as a side piece, here in Mexico, we are also implementing a digital ID, and nobody seems to care or understand why it's not a good idea.
It's going to be much harder to implement a digital ID and digital currency in Mexico, how it currently stands. Freedom through chaos. So even if they do bring it out, I don't think it's going to have the same type of adoption as in a lot of other countries.
Because there's not enough infrastructure and the government doesn't want to fix it.
And it's shared power with criminal organizations that don't want their bank accounts tracked and they don't want their identities tracked. So they can have a lot of control over the government. So I would expect carve-outs and not complete implementation of these things in places like Mexico.
The government actually wanted full body scans, but some do-gooders decided it might be too intrusive, so you just have to have your face scanned instead. One woman was permanently banned from her own Discord server after it rejected her ID, and AI decided she looked too young to be 18. Yes, we are penalizing people for youthful looks now. Let's be honest, it's only what these bad people
Well, you're
deserve.
not allowed online anymore then.
Who do they think they are, staying pretty while the rest of us get fat, gray, and wrinkly? I hate those people so much. While the Minority Report world labor has created is mostly brilliant, there have sadly been some unintended consequences. For example, Keir Starmer was banned from social media after AI mistook his face for the backside of someone and accused him of obscenity. And then she goes on to
why don't we go into the next article here, which is less tongue-in-cheek, and it goes kind of more into the facts of what's going on in the UK with the censorship. And then we'll get into journalists asking Trump and Keir Starmer what's going on.
From The Guardian, what are the new UK online safety rules and how will age checks on adult content be enforced? From the 25th of July, websites and apps will be required to protect children by filtering out harmful content and verifying ages.
Yeah, and this is all being done on the back of protecting children, and that's how it is doing. That's how they're bringing this in all Western countries, including Canada. Mm-hmm. In Mexico, they're putting women as the cudgel to bring a lot of this stuff in. So it's violence against women if you say anything bad to women as a group, mm-hmm. which I think is a worse argument than children. The fact that they're bringing this in Mexico, saying, I can't say anything about women.
It's also infantilizing to women.
Yeah, there was a gentleman the other day that said women should stay home and cook. Yeah, I understand a lot of people don't agree with that, but now the government is now making them apologize, take down the post, and be re-educated.
Football player Chicharito Hernandez, whose the video I'm releasing later today is about him. So if you're interested on how the censorship machine is working in Mexico, all backed by feminist policies, then come watch it.
Well, Mexico's really banking on feminism being extremely strong in the future, and that's how they think they're going to get these policies in. But feminism is beginning to collapse, so I think a lot of censorship in Mexico may collapse along with it. At least that's what I'm hoping. The much stronger argument is trying to get this stuff in on the back of children. So it's hard if you're arguing that, we want children to be exposed to these things. Well, no, we don't want kids to be exposed, but we also don't want our freedom stripped. Mm-hmm. So,
children's online safety in the UK is having its seatbelt moment. On Friday, social media and other internet platforms will be required to implement safety measures to protect children or face large fines. It's a significant test for the Online Safety Act, a landmark piece of legislation that covers the likes of Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Google. Here's a guide of the new rules. So what happened on the 25th of July? Companies within the scope of the act must introduce safety measures to protect children from harmful content. This means all pornography sites must have in place rigorous age check-in procedures. Ofcom, the UK communications regulator, and the Act's enforcer found that 8% of children aged 8 to 14 had visited.
Okay, and let's stop there because this article isn't saying the depths of what's actually going on here. Yeah, they're saying corn sites and things like that, but they're also including misogyny and hate speech in here. The article is just not talking about it, but if you read the legislation itself, they're using broad-reaching terms that the government is able to interpret any way they want. Mm-hmm. So that's what this legislation is mainly for adults. It's not for children. This little part of the legislation's for kids, and this is what they're putting forth to the public. What's actually in this legislation is going to affect the internet in the UK almost as much as the Chinese government is affecting their internet over in China. They're trying to ban VPNs right now because so many people are adopting VPNs in the UK because of this legislation.
Social media platforms and large search engines must also prevent children from accessing pornography and material that promotes or encourages ending your life, self-harming yourself, eating disorders. This has to be kept off children's feeds entirely. Hundreds of companies are affected by the rules. Platforms will also have to suppress the spread of other forms of material potentially harmful to children, including this promotion of dangerous stunts, encouraging the use of harmful substances, and enabling bullying. So some of the hate speech stuff goes into bullying.
And, okay, yeah, I don't know how much you want to protect children of bullying. Obviously, it's not good when a child gets bullied, but growing up, I was bullied a lot. And it helped me out in the end because it's what kind of drove me into jiu-jitsu, learning to defend myself, going into physical fitness. So sometimes bullying, even though it's bad in the short term, can have good long-term effects. I'm not saying bullying is good, but I'm saying if you take away all bullying, you're going to create a very weak society.
Which is what we're seeing today, because we have essentially padded every single room and every single situation for kids starting from later millennials up to now with Gen Alpha. And we're seeing the consequences of not having, straightforward direction for these children, and they're useless in the world. They don't know how to deal with rejection, with, maybe being given positive feedback, like when they're in an office and they tell them how to do things better, they're not able, they don't react properly to that because they were never trained through having to go through some of these situations. Of course, not physical violence maybe, but at least, a little name calling here and there, so at least you can form some sort of shell.
Yeah, and not just, it goes beyond bullying because it's like all the hard times in my life made me the man I am today, and it took a lot of hard times in order to do that. It wasn't the good times or the good things that really built me or built my resilience in life. So the modern society is really structured in a way to keep people from hard times, and hard times actually build strong men. Okay, let's...
And also, a lot of these legislators and people that propose these sorts of bills, of course, are doing it from the right now. They're seeing what's happening right now and thinking, oh, this is going to help me right now. But they never future-proof it. So if one day, for example, the other party comes in and they decide that, I don't know, saying whatever thing that you think you're allowed to say right now, like pro-LGBTQ stuff, if they decide that now that is harmful and that is bullying and that is should not be on the internet, now the people that were before voting for this kind of stuff will be censored as well.
And that's why free speech is so important, because free speech is non-biased. Everybody has it. As soon as you start indoctrinate or starting putting in hate speech laws or other laws like hate speech, which can affect what you can see on the internet or what you can say in reality, it's going to keep changing based upon who is in power. They're going to use it as a tool of power.
And it seems Donald Trump might be part of the ones that get sanctioned for that, because...
Before we get into this, let's just remember J.D. Vance gave major speeches in the EU that was very well received by the EU population and not well received by the governments and the elites. Donald Trump has said the same things. Right now he's negotiating tariff deals. So I think he's being kind of easy, but he wasn't easy on the London mayor.
So, London Mayor Sadiq Khan said Donald Trump's remarks today were racist, Islamophobic, and anti-Muslim. It comes after the American president said today that the London mayor was a nasty person and does a terrible job in the capital city, London.
Yeah, Donald Trump was recently welcomed into the UK by the Scottish people, and they were waving Trump flags at the airport and lining the streets. People over there are, Trump is starting to have a lot of political weight because of his immigration policies. A lot of the EU population is pointing at Trump and saying, you said you can't do it, but he's doing it. Just do what he's doing. And not just on immigration, but nationalism, self-manufacturing. He's going around the world getting these tariff deals, putting America first. A lot of these people want to see their politicians put their country first, and they're not. They're putting immigrants first that are illegal immigrants that shouldn't be in the country. They're putting them above their own citizens.
And not just that, but the policies that they're instituted are mostly against their own citizens. So that is why when people praise Donald Trump, it's not that they're praising or saying like, oh, I want America to be first as someone from, for example, Mexico. But I wish that other politicians and other countries would start looking more inward and finding out what the actual problems are within the country rather than continuing on this globalization.
And taking long-term policies for the country rather than short-term globalist policies. In the short term, trading with all these countries, yeah, it might help your country, but then you're going to have no manufacturing. And what happens if a war comes and international shipping shuts down? Your country's absolutely screwed. This tariff policy by Trump, even if countries don't like it and they have a high tariff, that's just motivation for them to kind of take the deal short-term, but start investing in their own manufacturing and their own people long-term. Okay.
So from Mark Nixon, look at the panic on UK PM Starmer's face when asked about free speech. He looked like someone just asked him to define women at a climate summit.
Well, and they had 3 press conferences together, or not necessarily press conferences, but where a journalist asked them questions, and this subject kept coming up, and he has talking points, and one time he even cut off Donald Trump to try to shut up the journalist and saying, well, we're protecting children, we're not doing speech. He knows Trump in the U.S. is against these policies. He also knows they're in the midst of a tariff deal, so Trump probably isn't going to say much right now.
The importance of free speech today?
Well, free speech is very important. I don't know if you're referring to any place in particular. Perhaps they are, but
we've had free speech for a very, very long time here. So,
and now it's going away.
Yes, they were the first ones to say that free speech was important, and they were the first ones to almost come up with the concept, but now they've completely destroyed it. So
they have had free speech for a very long time, and now it's going away.
Yes. And speaking of free speech, from the BBC, VPNs top download charts as age verification law kicks in at the UK. Virtual private network apps have become the most downloaded app on Apple's App Store in the UK after sites such as, adult sites, Reddit and X began requiring verification of users on Friday. VPNs can disguise your location online, allowing you to use the internet as though you are in another country. It means that people are likely using them to bypass requirements of Online Safety Act, which mandated platforms have to, check ages. As of Monday morning, half of the top 10 free apps in Apple's app download charts in the UK appeared to be VPN services. There's been a 1,800% spike in downloads, said one app maker.
Yeah, so now they're coming after VPNs and online anonymity. Online anonymity is very important because we've seen what happened during the jibby jab era. People were losing their jobs. People were getting canceled. If we have digital IDs and digital currency coming in, what's going to happen to people's bank accounts? People are going to be scared to say what they really feel. They're going to hide those feelings, and then they'll emerge in much more toxic ways. Mm-hmm. Okay, was that the last part for the censorship?
No, there was Trump on the castle.
Oh yeah, let's play Trump in the castle. Trump
took UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer into his castle-like 16-room house in Scotland for trade talks over dinner. So there we see. That's a big fountain.
Well, this is bigger than what Keir Starmer has and what the government has. So this is Trump's castle in the UK. And
Castle-like.
and he's kind of saying, I'm in charge now, and after this tariff deal is done, we're going to decide on what's next. With the digital currency coming in, I really think he's going to try to undermine the digital currency the EU is trying to bring in and completely checkmate the EU into being a subservient bunch of countries to the US. So we'll see what happens there. We do know the EU had big plans for globalization. They were originally trying to manufacture their digital currency to be the central digital currency that all other digital currencies would play off of. So I don't think that is going to happen now that Trump is kind of coming in and saying what's what and who's who.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go into the next story here. And
Also in the UK.
this is a series of ex-post stories and articles involving a situation with a father whose son was hacked with potentially a machete. So let's get into it. We'll try to speak sensitively and talk around some of the words if we have to.
Yes, so I'm going to have to really censor this one, but person arrested for ending someone's life, a boy 15 whose life was lost during a crash.
Oh, it was lost? I didn't think it was lost.
59-year-old man has been arrested on suspicion of ending someone's life after a boy 15 was ended in a crash on a housing estate. Officers were called to a collision between a car and an electric bike on Rora Crescent, Middleton, shortly before 12 BST. Greater Manchester Police said the teenager passed away at the scene and his family were being supported by officers. Force said detectives were looking into an alleged theft, over which another 15-year-old boy has been arrested before the collision. Detective Chief Inspector said this terrible incident has seen the ending of a teenage boy, and we're working hard to establish the full facts of the case and what is the very early stages of the investigation.
And they're not really, this is a very biased article, and a lot of the articles were biased, not telling the full story of what kind of happened here. And I'm kind of highlighting this story as the story of what UK censorship is going to do. It's not going to allow stories like this to get out. This involves a migrant with a machete dressed as a militant hacking away at a child that was younger than him in order to steal his e-bike. His father was in the area, immediately seen his kid, got into his car and ran down the other 15-year-old kid in a fit of rage because the UK police haven't been doing anything for thefts or anything in the area. This was a example of vigilante justice. I don't agree with what the dad did, but because there's a two-tier policing system in the UK, the dad didn't feel like if he called the police, anything was going to even be done.
Mm-hmm. Because
we do have both videos from this incident we are going to play.
And because let's just say the kid that initially tried to steal the e-bike was of a certain
ethnicity.
Ethnicity, yes.
Okay, and this is the second video of the let's play the first video, actually.
This one?
Yep.
No, that's not a video. This one?
Yeah, so this is the first video of the 15-year-old migrant stealing the bike from, there's two children. One of the children ran away. The other one got hacked with what people believe is a machete. If it's not a machete, it is a weapon the size of a machete. You can... And pause it. I guess both videos were together. The first one they cut short because they didn't want to show the kid getting hacked with the machete. This is the second video where the dad hopped in his car and ran down the kid that stole his son's e-bike and was put in intensive care. No, it's here. It just takes a minute.
Okay.
Show the time.
So this is back on the street where the kid that got initially attacked lived, or where was this?
No, the kid was running away. You'll see.
Okay.
Where?
Because I haven't seen the video.
Yeah, can you keep the time on, please? Good. Okay, there's the kid on the e-bike that just stole the e-bike from the other kid. That kid that's on the e-bike right now hacked the other guy's head. And that's the dad going after him. Absolutely infuriated. Now there's
the dad of the kid who got hacked.
Yeah. Now there's a lot of talk in the UK right now because there's been such a two-tiered justice system that if this dad is put on trial, that citizens of the UK should not find him guilty. Me personally, I would be in favor of that. So, okay, you can take it off of me.
Oh, sorry. Well, I was looking at what was next.
And what did you think of the videos overall? The first video wasn't as graphic as the main video because it was censored, so they stopped the video before the kid was put in intensive care.
Well, I mean, in the UK, we know that the police essentially, and they've come out and said it themselves, they don't go after crime of a certain ethnicity because they know that there's repercussions for that. And we also see that in the UK, a lot of small towns and other, smaller cities have now been almost dominated by,
Also, they're carrying around machetes on a regular basis because that's what they do in their countries of origin. So it's supposed to be illegal in the UK, but nobody's actually enforcing the law here. So they're starting to use these machetes to take people's e-bikes, stuff of this nature, and there's no real prosecution or no real consequence for it.
And we especially saw this problem during the grape gangs that have been going on for about 20 years now in the UK, and it was covered up. It was completely silenced. Anybody that protested it was called racist and phobic and etc. But now I think there's going to be more and more evidence, and people are starting maybe to get to the point where they're kind of fed up with it finally, and maybe speaking out a bit more than they used to, because we do see a lot of protests in a lot of the migrant hotels and places where a lot of newer immigrants have been, put up.
And let's just bring up a photo of the kid that did have the machete there.
I don't know if that's completely verified. So
yeah, let's bring it up.
Are you sure?
Yep.
Because it's not loading now.
Yeah, it's right there. I see it. Here, I'll help
So this
you out.
is alleged. Since it's a minor, I don't want the UK to get mad at us. But
yeah, this is allegedly the kid. It's not completely confirmed, but can you show the whole picture or no? His legs? Yeah. So he's wearing armor in his pants, and this is typical of a lot of people. They wear much puffier jackets with armor underneath, armor on their pants. They carry machetes. I mean, he's dressed like a militant here, and this is absolutely ridiculous. Why are you dressed like that? Because maybe in your country of origin there's mass violence. There wasn't mass violence in the UK before there was this mass immigration problem. Mm-hmm. Okay, and let's go into the last video for this segment.
Which one is that? Because I can't.
The one in the story you just had up a moment ago.
So this is Greg's in the country near Dagenham as migrants come in and help themselves. If there's music, I'm going to have to mute it. Oh, no, there's not.
And we've seen this in the U.S., migrants just openly
Canada.
stealing what they want and walking out with it. And these males that are standing here do absolutely nothing about it. Mm-hmm. There's no social shame. There's no social enforcement. If a kid gets kidnapped on the street, these men that are standing in line, there's a two-tier justice system, so none of them feel like they can jump in. They feel like they'll be prosecuted if they do jump in. The men that are stealing feel like they're not going to be prosecuted no matter what they do, so they're just going to take what they want, whether it's an e-bike or whether it's food from a grocery store. And it's not like they're not being provided with money from the UK government, because they are. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's go into...
And then you had a Hillary Clinton thing about this.
Oh, yeah. So...
Do you want to explain it?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Hillary Clinton, but she may have had it right back in the 90s. Modern conservatives really have the same views Hillary Clinton and a lot of Democrats had back in the 90s. The Democrats just kind of went off a progressive ledge, but let's remember, they used to think just like I think now.
The C-SPAN networks bring you long-form public affairs programming from the nation.
Our streets from crime, gangs, and drugs. And we have actually been making progress on this count as a nation because of what local law enforcement officials are doing, because of what citizens and neighborhood patrols are doing. We're making some progress. Much of it is related to the initiative called community policing, because we have...
And she's talking about neighborhood patrols and things like this. Those men that were standing in line in a normal society before the government really made this two-tiered policing system, they would have jumped in even if police aren't there. And that's an important factor. Police can only come once a crime has been committed. That's why your basic character, especially of your men in society, are so important, because they can be an enforcement arm that can protect somebody on the spot.
Have finally gotten more police officers on the street. That was one of the goals that the president had when he pushed the crime bill that was passed in 1994. He promised 100,000 police. We're moving in that direction, but we can see it already makes a difference, because if we have more police interacting with people, having them on the streets, we can prevent crimes. We can prevent petty crimes from turning into something worse. But we also have to have an organized effort against gangs. Just as in a previous generation we had an organized effort against the mob. We need to take these people on. They are often connected to big drug cartels. They are not just gangs of kids anymore.
Now they're openly importing gang members and organized crime members into the countries of the UK, of the EU, of the United States, although the United States
Canada
is now taking action, of Canada. So Hillary Clinton was exactly right here. I rarely agree with her, but I've been watching some videos of her back in the 90s, and then I agreed with her a lot more back then.
And then also, I mean, not that long ago, she was calling for, getting rid of the police. Because apparently they've all forgotten the consequences of and the initial ideas they had.
Okay, and let's head over to RUMBLE. We got our final segment. It's going to be too hot for YouTube. Every day we kind of pick one segment that the censors of YouTube normally wouldn't like, and we head over to the Green Monster. Yes. So we'll see you over there in a few minutes. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. We're trying to get to 300 subscribers and eventually 1,000 so we can monetize this channel and stick around for a little longer.
Yes. We'll see you over there.
Okay, let me switch over to Rumble now. On my phone.